Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, April 5th at 1 p.m. and I'd like to call this regular town council meeting to order, please. So moving forward, acknowledgement of Indigenous peoples. The town of Rocky Mountain House wishes to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is Treaty 6 territory and a traditional meeting ground for home for many Indigenous peoples, including the Blackfoot, Cree, Saulteaux, Stoney, and Métis. Thank you. 3.1. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Councillor Auld.
Actually, before we do that, I'd like to move 10.3 from information to 9.6 for discussion.
Excellent. Any other changes? I'm sorry, where are you moving that to, Councillor Auld?
9.6.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I have no problem with that. Is there any other changes or additions to the agenda? Okay, can I have a motion to accept the agenda for April 5th, 2022? Councillor Fraser.
I so move.
Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. I'm very pleased today to welcome Mr. James Gordon, a delegation for the Rolling Barrage PTSD Foundation. And Mr. Gordon, just when you speak, there's a red mic button there. Thank you very much and welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor Bache, Rocky Town Council. My name is Jim Gordon. I'm a veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces and I reside here in Rocky Mountain House, and I've been here since '98. I sit on the board of directors, as well as being the chief operations officer for a not-for-profit foundation by the name of the Rolling Barrage PTSD Foundation. If you wish to look at our website for more information on us, the website is therollingbarrage.com. Last year, we stopped in Rocky for fuel on our way from Red Deer to Jasper, and we got a great reception. Our foundation's mission is to create and maintain a community of support for the Canadian Armed Forces, both serving and veterans, first responders, Canadian safety communities, as well as the Canadian emergency healthcare providers, to show the strength and unity and to combat the effects of post-traumatic stress disorder, commonly known as PTSD. TRB, the Rolling Barrage, raises funds and awareness to support programs and organizations that provide assistance to those who serve our country. Several examples of our successes, but definitely not all, are one, because of direct interaction with TRB last year. There are 5 police officers from the eastern provinces that sought out help with their PTSD organizations instead of continuing to battle their demons on their own. Last December, at a get-together held for first responders that responded to the mass shooting in April of 2020 in Nova Scotia, the Rolling Barrage presented 32 meditation devices to first responders. A comment made by one of the spouses of one of the officers that helped with that was that her husband was finally able to get a good night's sleep just from knowing someone cared. My first year with the Rolling Barrage was in 2018. At that time, I thought I was just a grumpy old guy. But after talking to people on the ride, I started to have questions about myself. After getting home from only 3 days on the ride, I called mental health and addictions here in Rocky at the hospital. In January of 2019, I was diagnosed with PTSD because of my service on a UN mission in the former Yugoslavia in 1992. Last year, in a COVID year, we raised $64,000, which is being divided up and sent to different vetted organizations as we speak. Our route this year, on August 16th, takes us from Stony Plain through Rocky Mountain House on our way to Okotoks. With your permission, I would like to stop the rolling barrage at the Rocky Fire Hall for a barbecue fundraiser that would be open to the public. But for this to happen, I would need 49th Avenue closed for parking from 54th Street to just before 52nd Street. It's a good 3-lane width. The bikes and cars can park on both sides, leaving the center open for people to come and go as they need. If it is possible, I would also like to close 52nd Street for additional parking, but I realize that there are other buildings that this would affect. The route into town that I was hoping to travel is right off Highway 22, onto 11A. Left onto Main Street, right onto 50th Avenue, left onto 54th Street, and left onto 49th Avenue and park at the fire hall. The reason I would like to stop at the fire hall is because of inclement weather. If it exists, it gives us and our riders a place to be able to go out of the weather. We will have RCMP escorts with us. But entering town, we will need additional assets. I have talked to Deputy Fire Chief Evan Stewart, and he is on board, providing, of course, you accept this and you pass this. I will be talking to the RCMP officers here in town, but we have to have a meeting with their national office and talk again with their Corps Sergeant Major. Then he will pass it down to the other divisions, but that has to happen before I talk to local. I also want to involve the Rocky EMS if possible. I realize that these individuals are very busy, so they cannot commit. In closing, I hope that your decision towards this proposal is positive. Let me assure you that we do our absolute best to ensure that this is just a family ride and that there are no criminal associations with us. We may look like a bunch of rough bikers, but we are approachable and friendly, and we enjoy talking to people about our reflections. Thank you for letting me have time to present this to you. And I hope that you can see it in a positive light. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gordon. I really appreciate your time today. Did we have any questions for Councillor Phillips?
I don't have a question. I know we'll be talking about this this request further on in our delegation. I just wanted to say thank you for for bringing up the awareness of PTSD. Our armed forces, our police, our first responders. It's a challenge. It's a definite thing that needs to be brought more awareness and more help. And I just wanted to thank you for it.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Boniface.
I'd just like to say thank you for your service, sir. And I definitely support your foundation. It's helped a lot of close friends. So thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that my family lives in Croatia, in the former Yugoslavia, and without the support of outside assistance, they wouldn't be alive today. So that's sort of a side thing, but thank you so much for your service. It was really appreciated.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
There's no further questions. I thank you very much for your time today, and I appreciate you coming to see us for your delegation. Have a great day.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So moving forward in the agenda, 5.1 to adopt the regular council meeting minutes of March 22nd. Are there any changes or additions to those minutes? Could I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes for March 22nd, 2022.
Thank you, Councillor Boniface. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So moving forward, delegation business, delegation, the Rolling Barrage PTSD Foundation that we just heard from Mr. James Gordon. Councillor Phillips.
I just think anything we can do to help promote awareness of PTSD through, you know, whether it's rides like this or any other events, I'm fully in support of it.
Councillor Ald.
I agree. The only question I have is whether or not we need to involve transportation to shutting down Highway 11A, and or are they going to abide by just as traffic laws, or do we need to?
No, so your worship, yeah, no, we'll work with Alberta Transportation for that. I mean, we do it all the time with the parade, for example.
So we'll look after that on their
We'll
behalf.
work with the foundation to achieve this, yeah.
Is there anything that we have to do, Mr. Kroos, for council to help with this matter? Or it's just leave it for administration? Like, do we have to?
No, you know, so your worship, just the resolution that administration work with the Rolling Barrage Foundation for their event, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, so would someone like to make, maybe I would like to make that resolution. If there's no further discussion or questions, that we ask administration to work with the Rolling Barrage PTSD Foundation to assist with transportation agreements for the route through Rocky Mountain House and the closure of whatever's required for their event at the fire hall. Is that? Yep. Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. Seeing no old business, we move to new business, 8.1 RFD for curbside recycling. And we have Mr. Fraser.
Thank you, Your Worship, Council. So following Council's direction and the strategic plan, we're established our curbside recycling service and we are ready to roll it out here.
So do we have any questions for Mr. Fraser today? Councillor Boniface?
We're all set to with utilizing the eco center for extra garbage that people will bring in above and beyond.
Yes, you'll be seeing an amendment to the rates and fees bylaw a little later on.
My question is that when I talked to another community during their process of establishing their program, they found that a manpower became an issue. So is there a way that we would track that throughout the project? Because they went from our proposed way into the bins, like we discussed, and said that the reason was the change. So do we set like criteria or like a time frame to review that in case there needs to be changes?
So your worship, I'm not quite sure I understand the question with manpower because we'll be contracting this out. This will be curbside. We are still in negotiation with the contractor right now. But I mean, it'll be a curbside pickup and they'll provide the equipment and manpower with that.
Yeah, so this other community found that their contract it increased in costs in their contract. I just am bringing that up. That was feedback from another community, and then they switched to the bins later on because of it. So would we put in like a frame of reference? Do you know what I'm asking now?
Yeah, so your worship, so the prices that we worked with the contractor or we are working with, I mean, it'd be the same price for the tow pickup now for like waste and organics. So right at this time in the negotiations, it's not a different cost between that tote or just blue bag on the curb.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask that because another community had that concern. Counselor Phillips.
And I would think, if something came to light after the fact that we implemented the program, that admin would bring that back to council for further discussion, if anything more needed to be discussed on it. And any new program we bring out is going to have, first start up hiccups, so to say, but I'm confident that admin would bring any issues back to us.
Counselor Fraser.
Initially, I was just gonna say, I think the reason that we were going to start with the bags is because it was low cost to see what the real cost of the program would be.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with what's been presented here. If there isn't any other, are there any other comments or questions? Then I was going to make a motion that council establish bi-weekly clear bag curbside recycling service effective May 2nd and continue waste pickup weekly until September, when it will then be provided on alternate weeks from recycling.
And so thank you very much for your motion. I just wanted to add before we vote on it that there is no additional cost to our taxpayers in our community for this program at this time, so that it's clear for all those out in YouTube land. And with no further discussion on the motion on the table, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, Mr. Fraser. So moving forward to 8.2, RFD for fees and rate changes and fees, rates and charges bylaw 2021. Sorry, 2022/01.
Thank you, your worship and council. So the fees and rates bylaws were discussed at the service level meetings in the fall. This bylaw update was a collaborative effort from all the departments, as each department went through the rates and fees applicable to them and have provided feedback. All the changes in the package that you guys have received are in red throughout the schedules. So there's only really minor changes throughout. There's also 2 discussion items that council has brought forward in the last couple months, potentially affecting rates under section or Schedule G. And then I would suggest to council that they start at Schedule A and go through them out. And hopefully if they have any questions, all of our directors are here to answer them. Thank you.
So with Schedule A, I see that there's no changes. With that being in mind, is everyone comfortable with Schedule A as it's presented? Okay, so moving on to Schedule B, again, there's no changes. Is everyone comfortable with that? Yes, that looks like a yes. Schedule C, then there's some minor changes for planning and community development. So then that was an increase in fee of a compliance letter, which seems reasonable. That was discussed. Is there any other questions? See no discussion. Move forward on that. And Schedule D shows no changes. Schedule E, the proposed water and sewer and storm bylaw show changes and removals from the fees and rates and charges by law. Is there any questions on that?
Your worship, just a comment from administration on this. So if council passes the bylaw, the way it's written right now, it would come in effect tomorrow. So council may want to have some discussion on the eco center fees and when that council wants that implemented.
So that's on page 6 there. And you can see eco center fees. Garbage would be $3 per bag. Large items would be $10 per item. Is everybody on the same part of the? So as to give notice to residents, because today is the 5th, and the changes then would take effect according to this as of today, as soon as we
If
pass
council
this.
passes the bylaw, it'd be in effect today, but council may wish to have those imposed later, like start the curbside recycling, first, and maybe give a month for adjustment there, and then the fees be imposed like June 1st. So
Yeah.
it's just an example I'm putting out there. It's up to council for the time frame. But if council wants a later time frame, then just amend the bylaw to say eco center fees effective at the date that council wants it effective.
Yeah, because I think we discussed when we were talking about service level fees that we would have a period of time to let the community know the changes. And were we going to post that in the newspaper or just at the site that say the fees will be this on such and such a date? Or have we?
No, your worship, so when council passes or decides on the actual date, we'll put that out on social media, we'll advertise that and do the full public engagement on that.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Kraus. Councillor Phillips?
I think it's only prudent that we do that, simply because this new program comes into effect May 1st. So we allow the residents to alter their waste habits and take advantage of our recycling program and our organics program. That will reduce household waste, which should hopefully reduce the amount of usage at the eco center. So I definitely think that we should allow a grace period and a period for education so that the public will be aware of what's going on.
Councillor Aldo, get you in 1 second. I just have a quick question with that. Laura, could you remind me which day is our community front yard? Is that's in June as well, is it not?
Yes, Mayor, it's scheduled for June 18th and 19th, I believe, or 17th and 18th. I know the 18th is the date and whatever Saturday, Sunday is around.
Okay, thank you. So that's another opportunity for people to address, keeping with the circular economy of waste, and instead of putting it into the landfill, how they have an opportunity to recycle and donate and yard sale or however they're going to do it on that day. Councillor Ald.
Yeah, I just agree with Len. If we can give the residents 2 months to kind of get used to it, start doing some advertising, get some signage up and make it effective in June, it'd be I think it'd be well worth it.
And is like these we have this first, we've seen these fees. We're all comfortable with the fees as they're set because they were going to do some sort of like research to see what, and no one has any comments about the dollar values. Just wanted to confirm that before we move forward.
Yeah, so your worship, just to expand on that, so $3 per bag is it's comparable to other municipalities. It's even less. A lot of times it's 5. So we're introducing it as 3. The same with the large items. The mattresses, in consulting with our provider, that's actually just cost recovery. For the collection, the hauling, and the fee paid at the recycling facility, $30 per mattress would be just cost recovery. And the same with the free on items.
And that customers with their Rocky Pass can still do glass recycling, cardboard recycling, and that at the center, even though we're doing this new program. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. Okay, Perfect. Is there any other questions or Counselor Hutchinson?
Just on the garbage, $3 per bag. Did we look into anything more about buying like a 10-pack bag, or is this all just going to happen paid at the Eco Center when they drop off?
So your worship, right now, it's going to be at the Eco Center, but we'll explore more for a bag or tag a bag system. And bring it back to council or implement it or.
And the Eco Center is going to have a debit card system, or is it going to be cash only with invoices, or how?
No, your worship, we are setting up a debit card system at the Eco Center.
Okay,
It's not there now. We just figured out the internet problems
Oh.
at the Eco Center. So the
Okay.
next step is to get the equipment. there.
okay. So in theory, if there's no more further problems with the internet, there will be debit card when this program takes effect.
Your worship, there will be debit cards. when it's programmed.
We'll get asked. Okay, so Schedule F, there's no changes. Unless there's further discussion about Schedule E, Councillor Hutchinson.
I just think July 1st would be a good date. That gives 2 full months of the grace period. That was just my thoughts on.
Councillor Phillips.
I think that's fair. Give people 2 months to change their habits of, now we have a blue bag system, your recycling doesn't have to go into your black bin. It should decrease the amount of volume in your black bins by quite a bit for most families. So if we give them 2 months to change their habits and their waste disposable methods, I think that's fair.
So just to clarify, it would be 90 days from today if we did July 1st, and 60 days-ish if we did June 1st. When we talk 2 months, because this fee rate is a cost recovery of a utility that we need to start moving on, correct? That's why we're implementing this. It's a cost recovery because.
Yeah, so your worship, that's part of it. It's cost recovery, but it's also enhancing, the whole program, the whole recycling, the organics and waste is enhancing the service to the citizens. And when you think about bringing out the curbside pickup for recycling, the kick it to the curb in June, July would seem like a more appropriate date to kick in the fees. That gives the citizens ample time. Plus, they would have 2 new programs to assist them, so they don't have to take waste to the process.
So we would make, Councillor Phillips, did you?
I just agree that July 1st should be the day, simply because nothing will happen until May 1st. So habits can't even change until May 1st. And we've got to let the residents get used to that system and change their habits. So I think giving 2 months from the time that we implement the new
The May
ag
1st
system.
program.
Yeah, I think giving 60 days after that is a good idea.
Okay, I see that Councillor Fraser has a comment.
And I was thinking about our kick it to the curb. If we bring in the fee before our kick it to the curb event, people might want throw that stuff out instead of doing kick it to the curb, just because they don't want to have the fee.
I'm sorry, so are you saying that we do it on June 1st?
July 1st. I think we get
Okay,
May 2nd, we start with the recycling. Then in June is the kick it to the curb event. That has given them 2 different programs to reduce, and then we can roll out the fees. I think doing the fee change in the middle will confuse things.
okay, yeah, no, that sounds fair to me. Any other comments? So we'll do that at the end. So moving forward, Schedule F has no changes. Schedule G, and that's, I think Councillor Phillips, you had some questions on that. Is that correct? And did it?
Yeah.
I see that.
So yes, the topic was we have had our Rocky passes at 75 age plus were free. And the question was, do we want to look at, maintaining a good, healthy community? And by healthy community, our seniors are part of that, to lower that Rocky Pass age down to 70 age to have a free Rocky Pass. And I know we already do a 25% discount. Is that correct, Wes?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. That's just my hope is to bring that age from 75 down to 70 for free Rocky passes for the senior residences.
Which page is that on?
It's under the financial section of the RFD. This has put together a little bit of information there on the reduction of the seniors pass from 75 to 70. It shows sort of approximate just over $3,000 a year that we currently bring in. Again, that's only on active memberships. Any seniors that are on punch cards or monthly passes, that would change to the annual rec pass. That's $460 a year for an annual seniors recreation pass. And then, so depending on that, it could be up to $15,000 of lost revenue over a period of a year.
Councillor Ald.
I agree with that. I'd like to see that come down, but we've lost quite a bit of sponsorship with the Christian Center, the Rocky Sports and Wellness now. I'm not sure if we want to sign up for potentially losing that $15,000 a year. I'd have to see some more numbers on that before I went down that road.
Would there be a way that we could adjust rate changes for adults in order to facilitate that? Like, would it be a 25-cent change on an adult admission, to like, would it be something that we could do it that way, like have a zero cost increase by shuffling? Is that the right word?
We haven't done any rates and fees increases across the board for 3 years since I think 2018 or 2019 was the last of a 3-year program where we did a 2% rate increase across the board. There hasn't been anything, again, with COVID and other things since that time. I would, if you wanted to look at that, it usually would be something we would do in the summer, and then we would bring back to our service level retreat in the fall to look at an overall rates and fees increase and what that could look like.
So would that be something that maybe we could consider this change? Because, I feel that I'd sure like to encourage people 65 and older. That's where the government sort of sets their benchmark, and then review it when we can review the whole package, because this will be really the first season in theory with no restrictions starting now. Like everything else is sort of like on again, off again, right?
Right. And we haven't really had an opportunity to judge the full effect of reducing the free memberships to the 75 plus. So I would suggest, giving us, the rest of the summer and having a look at that, and then a total review of our rates and fees across the board in the fall and leading up to the next budget cycle.
And so the changes that are on here are just like some word changes, right? There's no fee changes.
Yes, it's mostly wording changes. We've gone from the Rocky Pass to the recreation membership. The Rocky Pass is given out to everyone who has an account in the Perfect Mind system. And then within that, we included the Eco Center membership, the pool pack memberships, the recreation memberships. So again, we needed each of those categories within our current Perfect Mind system. Everybody that has an account and now has the ability, now that we're going online, anybody that has a Rocky Pass can log in and create their accounts are already there. They can log in, look at all their memberships that they have. They can purchase new programs, do bookings and different types of things online. So again, that's just a wording change we've made throughout the document. You know, some of the other wording changes, just going from, you know, consistency, using the word corporate instead of not-for-profit and those various things. And the rest are minor changes. We did include the student rate throughout the document with the definition that the student is between 18 and 25 with proof of student ID.
Yeah.
Yeah, with on page G2, the child recreation pass was adjusted to $475. We noticed that the rec pass was at $450, but the pool rate was $475. So it was cheaper to do the recreation pass than the pool pass. So just a minor adjustment there. Just some wording changes with the children under 12 not permitted to use the fitness equipment. It's a safety issue there. Yeah, just some minor little wording changes. Obviously, the change in name from the Christensen Sports and Wellness Center to the Rocky Regional Recreation Center. Added the wording for the minor sports group charge for outdoor sport facility. That was something that we've dealt with in the past through council resolution. Now that's just reflected in the bylaw. New program at the pool on page G5 added the drop-in kayaking rate. And that's a new program that's being implemented there at the pool. Yeah, I think we've added the other addition is a weekend maintenance rate for the ball diamonds. Again, that was a request came to us from some of the users. We didn't have that ability, so it's a little different service level in that we're providing it, but it comes at a, you know, establishing a rate for that request.
I see also that we're seeking some direction on the family recreation pass to not have limits set on number of children in a family. Is that correct? So that's on the other document.
Right, and that's not reflected in the changes on the document at
Right.
this point.
You've just done a comparison, right?
Right, and I can thank Tracy for doing that.
Thank you,
that
Tracy.
legwork on that one. But yeah, I think currently our family definition is 2 adults and up to 5 children that live in the same household. And again, the documentation, it's different communities have different definitions of what's determined as a family. So again, that's open for council discussion at this point.
But currently we're up to 5.
Yes.
Did we? Yeah, Councillor Hutchinson.
I really like the idea of the seniors going down to 70 and looking at a fee increase, but I don't think the timing is right for either of those, given we haven't had a full couple years. And again, I think something that to maybe look at even next spring, just to see if we get our numbers back up and more registrations in.
Councillor Fraser.
I was just going to, I agree with Councillor Hutchinson about the timing for the rate increases. I also wanted to say, I would appreciate, I know I don't go over that 5 children, but if you legitimately have 5 children who are your children, there's not a lot of families that would affect, but I think the ones that it does affect, it makes a big difference when you've got a lot of kids and you want to take them somewhere. We have these facilities for our community to use, and by setting that limit, I know we have to rely on the honor system there, but the facilities are for our residents to use, and telling them that their family is too large to be considered a family doesn't seem in the spirit of what we're trying to do. So I would recommend that be removed almost, say 2 adults and children.
I have a question though for capacity. Would we have to, how does that work for capacity when we're doing that? Like,
Yeah.
they just do a head count anyways?
They do an overall head count of the number of people. More often it's at the pool where we
Yeah,
would see
that's what
this.
I was specifically thinking of.
So at this point, yeah, I think right now, the researchers on, we have, 6 families in the system that have more than 5. I think currently we only have 2 that have active memberships with children, more than 5 children in their families. But again, within the Perfect Mind system now, you can list each child in your household with their ages and stuff. That's a mandatory field in order, if you're registering them for swim lessons or anything, you need to have
Right.
that age listed in there. So it's easy enough for our system to track that.
Yeah, I'm familiar with how the pool works.
Yeah.
Because I buy a pass for my son. Yeah, so, so because it's only a few families this would affect, I think I agree with Counselor Fraser that if it's only affecting 2 families by limiting it, then it's only gonna affect 2 families by not limiting it. Does that sound fair? I'm gonna do, Counselor Phillips had a comment, and then Counselor Boniface.
So just in regards to the Rocky Pass and the seniors, the 70+ topic that we were talking about, I think maybe this is something we need to bring back to our service level retreat. Would that be the right place for that, Dean? The
Yeah.
Service level?
Yeah, that's correct,
Okay.
Deputy Mayor, and we would review the whole fee structure at service
Yeah.
level. So
So I would like, to maybe do that as an action item, to bring that to our service level retreat to have further discussion, and then we can have more numbers. Now that we're back into a normal operation, we can have better numbers and have a more accurate number than saying between 3,000 and 15,000. We can have a little more accurate assessment of that. As far as the 5 children per family issue, if it is only 2 families, I don't see it really as being a problem. If we had 52 families, that may be a different conversation, but I think if it's only a couple, I don't see it as being an issue to remove that.
Yeah, to be honest, our staff become familiar with the families that have large number of children type thing. I think some of the challenges is you get grandma coming with, several grandchildren, but I think they get to know those groups. And again, as we mentioned, it's on the honor system when you say, do you all live in the same household? And if they say yes, we're not arguing with them.
Perfect. Counselor Boniface, did you have a question or comment?
I was going to say about the service review as well, so I think that's great. And if we can take the stipulation of 5 only off, I think it'll help families, because I do know families that have more than 5 that will likely go get it passed.
Yeah. So to remove that up to 5 children for the present, for now, like immediately, do we have to do a resolution for that, or can that just be done through the Mr. Kraus?
yeah, so your worship, so when council gives first reading, it'd be with amendments. So right now, council's amendments are the Schedule E Eco Center fees become effective July 1st. And that the restriction on family size is removed from the recreation membership.
So on page 4 of our alternatives, that council ask administration to make the following changes to fees, rates, and bylaws and bring back. Is that what we would need to do?
If council's looking to pass the bylaw, it'd be part of the first reading of the bylaw amendment. If council wants to see the revised bylaw before giving first readings, then you would ask us to do those changes and bring the bylaw back.
Okay, perfect. So I'd like to make the resolution that council give first reading to the fees, rates, and charges bylaw 2022/01 as presented, with the changes that a family pass doesn't have a limit of how many children in the family. Yes. Is that, do we want discussion on the resolution?
Is your motion going to include also that we suspend the Eco Center fees until July 1st?
Oh,
as well?
yes. Thank you, Counselor Phillips. I'd also like to make that addition to the the motion that we start the rate fee at the Eco Center for July. July 1st, we're closed. So do you want to say July 3rd or do you want to have July 1st?
We're July 1st is fine because we're closed, so it just comes. into
Okay.
effect.
So July 1st. Thank you very much, Councillor Phillips. Any further discussion on the motion on the table? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Wes. Councillor Phillips, do you have a question?
No, I don't have a question, but I was just wanting to make a motion that council gives second reading to fees, rates and charges bylaw 2022/01.
I think I'd like to table that because I think we're going to have some community interest in this motion and I'd like to have it at the next council meeting. Do we need to have both today to proceed with our plans?
No, so your worship, there is a motion on the table for second reading. So my recommendation would be that council give it second reading, because if you defeat second reading, the bylaw is dead.
We can't table it to the next meeting?
So, and then Mayor, then you stop at second reading.
I see.
Right, I mean, the council can just leave it at second reading, or a councillor can put a motion on the table for unanimous consent. And then if there isn't a unanimous consent, then it just, the third reading just comes to the next council meeting.
Okay. Okay, so with the motion on the table for second reading of the bylaw, all in favor, or is there further discussion? All in favor, and that's carried. Thank you very much.
So just for clarification, we're not going to do, we're just going to table this to the next council meeting. Is that correct? For third reading?
Yes. Because we don't want to feed it now. Is that correct?
No.
I want to put it over 2 meetings, so I don't want to defeat it today.
Yeah, so council can either just do another resolution and say administration bring the bylaw back for third reading on whatever date you wish. Or council can put forward a motion for unanimous consent to go to third reading. It's up to council.
Councillor Hutchinson?
I'm sorry, I'm just confused why, and can I even ask that question? Why are we, or why would you like it tabled to the next meeting?
Just there's been quite a few community members complaining that we're doing bylaw changes that affect the community all in one meeting. And because this is something that I think would grab people's attention because it's about garbage, I thought over 2 meetings would seem adequate. But if you feel comfortable with that, I just feel that that was one of the complaints that citizens brought to my attention. And I said I would address that moving forward. And it doesn't hurt anything, and it's not going to harm the bylaw. And we've got dates far enough ahead that it's not going to bother our ETAs. Is that, Mr. Kraus, do you see any problems with the ETAs if we carried over to a meeting 2 weeks from now?
No, your worship, it doesn't affect still putting in the recycling program.
Yeah, because it starts right May 1st and then July 1st for the fee changes. It just gives an opportunity for citizens if they would like to see something different with the bylaws that we're passing because they become law, that's just have had citizens. Does that make sense? Okay, Councillor Phillips.
So what I'm hearing is we won't be getting unanimous consent anyhow. So then I would like to just table the third and final reading of this bylaw to our next regular council meeting. I'll make a motion to do that.
Does he table it or does he just make a resolution that we do it at the?
Postpone third reading to the April 19th regular council meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? So we're voting on the table, on the motion on the table at the time, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Moving forward to 8.3. Water and sewer and stormwater bylaws. And Tracy Breeze has information on that. She's ready.
Thank you again, your worship and council. At the regular council meeting of February 15th, council instructed administration to amend the water, sewer, and stormwater bylaw to reflect council's direction to provide provision for private hydrants. So the definitions, some definitions have been added for like private hydrants and qualified inspectors. But most of the changes in this bylaw you'll find are on page 15 to 17, section 10 of the bylaw itself. And then if you have any technical questions, I will refer to the acting director of engineering and operations to answer.
Mr. Kraus, did you
Yeah,
have a
so,
comment?
Yeah, no, I can, instead of having Mr. Fraser come to the table, I'll just quickly go through it with council. So it's section 10. So section 10.1 to 10.5 basically talks about when you have to install a private hydrant or repair or replace it, it has to be in accordance to the Alberta Fire Code, Building Code, our municipal engineering standards, and so forth. Going down 10.7, it clearly defines that if it's a private hydrant, it is responsibility of the owner to maintain that hydrant. Section 10.8 is saying it has to be maintained, installed, inspected in accordance to the Alberta Fire Code, Building Code, the NFPA standard, which sets the standard for hydrant maintenance, and any other applicable legislation. 10.9 goes through it, that you have to keep the owner needs to keep the records for 2 years, and they have to submit verification that it has been inspected and tested by September 30th of each year. If we do not receive verification of that from the property owner, we advise the fire department, which has the authority under the Safety Codes Act, to do a fire inspection, and they would go do an inspection on that property to ensure that it was maintained or get it maintained or inspected. Because that's where the authority is under provincial legislation. 10.10, it's providing notice if they're testing it to the fire department and plus our water treatment plant, because our water treatment plant needs to know, because they'll see volumes increase dramatically and they'll figure it's either a water main break or we're flushing hydrants or something. And then 10.11 is the responsibility to notify the fire department and the water treatment plant if a hydrant is out, down for maintenance. That's just for fire response purposes. 10.12 sets a time frame. So once they're aware that their private hydrant is not functioning, they have 30 days to get it back in order. And then, of course, 10.13 is just to say if it is out of order, it has to be tagged. So that way our public works department and the fire department know it's out if they're actually responding to something. 10.14 is just a clause saying this bylaw does not supersede any other provincial or federal legislation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kraus. That sounds fair and reasonable. And the town will send letters of this to the whatever number that would be, that would be affected by this bylaw?
Yeah, so your worship, if council passes the bylaw, then we would send letters of notification to the owners of the private hydrants and outlining the contents of the bylaw and their responsibilities.
Excellent. So, Councillor Phillips.
I just like that this gives very good, clear direction on what happens with a private fire hydrant. It's very clear whose responsibility it is and what the steps have to be to maintain and have those things in working order. I think that's a great idea.
Any other questions or discussion over this? Excellent. Maybe you'd like to make a motion? Counselor Ald?
Make a motion that council give first reading to water, sewer and stormwater bylaw 2022/03. A bylaw to regulate and provide for the supply and or use of water, collection and disposal of sewer and collection and disposal of stormwater in the municipality as presented.
Excellent. Any questions on the motion at hand? So I'll call that motion to a vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Would anyone like to make, sorry, thank you very much, Counselor Fraser.
I will move that council give second reading to the water, sewer and stormwater bylaw 2022/03.
Thank you very much. Did you have you were just, okay. No, I just want to make sure there was no discussion before we voted. Okay, so we'll call that to a vote then, all in favor. And that's carried. Thank you very much. So I would like to make a motion that we give the third and final reading to the next town council meeting on 19th, yeah, on April 19th. Counselor Phillips?
Sorry, just discussion on that matter. I mean, this particular topic has been in discussion now for probably about a year and a half. You know, it was spanned into last council. I honestly don't see a reason why we're delaying the third reading of this and not doing the unanimous consent. I can understand the fact that you've had a few individuals discuss that with you, but this is a pretty basic, straightforward thing that we're doing. So that's just my comment.
Okay. So I'd like to leave my motion on the table. If there's any other questions or comments? Counselor Ald?
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm just in the essence of timeliness. I'm just not sure. I don't understand why we're not keeping the go ahead on this. It's been requested from our residents to make this bylaw. And I think we should be moving ahead with passing it to get it done and out of the way.
Well, I don't see that it's going to affect the timeliness or Mr. Kraus, would there be a problem with it having the third reading at the next meeting?
So your worship, all it does is delay us notifying the owners of their responsibility.
Okay. So with that being said, I do think it's important to let owners know right away the changes of the bylaw. And no one else has had any, Counselor Boniface, if no one else has had any feedback, we have been talking about this since, like Counselor Phillips said, for a long time. I just wanted to give the opportunity to split it up into 2 meetings whenever possible, but I do understand, and I'd like to make an amendment to my motion and give the third and final reading now. Counselor Phillips?
Sorry, Mayor Beach, we would have to do the unanimous consent first before we can do third reading.
So I can't do the unanimous consent now that my table's on the motion, so. Do I change my motion to an unanimous assent?
No, so your worship, by you changing the motion, you're actually going out of procedure. So because you can't go to third reading without unanimous consent. So you could just take that motion off the table because it's not following legislative procedure. And then
Okay.
you just do the unanimous consent.
Okay, thank you. So I'll take that motion off the table and then we'll do a vote for unanimous consent now. Do we need a motion? Is that the motion? Counselor Phillips, did you want to make that
Sure,
motion?
I'll make the motion that council give unanimous consent to move to third reading of the water, sewer and stormwater bylaw 2022/03.
All in favor? And that's carried. Counselor Caprero?
So do we do the third reading now then? Okay, then I will make a motion that council give third and final reading to water, sewer and storm bylaw 2022/03.
All in favor for that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, moving forward to 9.1 cannabis revenue sharing with municipalities, response from Honorable Minister Toes.
So this is a letter I received from Minister Tays in a response to a question that I asked Minister MacGyver at the Alberta Municipal Leadership Caucus, just regarding cannabis revenue sharing. So in this letter, they're saying that they did do some type of sharing with larger communities, which is fantastic for those larger communities, but it still doesn't address the fact that there was supposed to be some type of revenue sharing with all municipalities. And the town of Rocky Mountain House hasn't received any of this revenue sharing. So I still think we need to send a letter back to Minister MacGyver, Minister Tays, still CCing Kathy Heron from Alberta Municipalities, our FCM incoming presidents, the Mayor of Vegreville, just clarifying that we aren't happy with this answer and we'd like some more thought put into the revenue sharing with all municipalities, not just select few.
I agree that we should address this issue. I would like to inform them that we did have costs associated with this new policy. Like we had to create bylaws and things in our community. What other costs were associated with us? Did we see some increases or changes with our peace officers or anything like that?
So your worship, just for clarification of council, so the town did receive a grant, a 2-year grant for the implementation of cannabis in our community. But now that funding has stopped. But initially the federal government announced that when they legalized cannabis, that they are going to do a 75-25% tax revenue share with the provinces. And the federal government stated at that time, and the reason why they're doing 75% to the provinces to encourage the province that they share that revenue with municipalities who will bear the brunt of the legalization of cannabis. So there is provinces in Canada, Ontario, and I think Nova Scotia, that those provincial governments followed the federal government recommendation, and they share that revenue with the municipalities for enforcement services. So really what we're trying to do here is to ask the Alberta government to follow the recommendation of the federal government and share some of that 75% of tax revenue off of cannabis with municipalities, especially in a time where there's been cuts to our grants in lieu of taxes and stuff like this. So this is additional revenue that the province is receiving, and we're just asking for them to fairly share it.
Now that I understand that a little bit more fully, I agree that we should have a letter come from the town of Rocky Mountain House, as you described. And then, as Councillor Phillips said, to CC our other partners so that they also could be in support of that.
And that information that Mr. Kraus just gave is exactly what I talked to Minister MacGyver about, not at the question at the Alberta Municipalities Leadership Caucus, but the following week at the RMA convention when I cornered him again. That's when I brought up this information to him as well, and he was surprised that, you know, it was so it's definitely something we need to bring to their attention, that it should be happening.
So can that be done in administrative inquiries, or do we need a resolution for that now? Okay, Councillor Phillips, did you want to make the resolution?
I would be happy to make that resolution. I'd like to make a resolution. Sorry.
So I'm so sorry, Councillor
okay.
Fraser, did you want to have discussion?
I just wanted to mention that in the letter, I think that we should be asking for a formula for all municipalities and that it be ongoing. I don't want them to cut us a check to make us be quiet while they proceed to put the revenue that was intended by the federal government to come to municipalities to deal with costs to just disappear into provincial coffers. So I'd like to see an ongoing formula.
Mr. Kraus, do you have any, would that be suitable for this situation? Okay, I think that's agreeable.
Yeah, I
Counselor
think
Fraser, or
that's a,
sorry, Counselor Phillips, did you want to
I-
make your motion now?
I think Councillor Fraser made a very good point. That would be definitely a good thing to have into the letter as well. So I'd like to make a motion that the town of Rocky Mountain House sends a letter to Minister MacGyver, Minister Taves, Kathy Heron from Alberta Municipalities, as well as our FCM president. Again, the name eludes me, the mayor of Vegreville. A letter discussing the essence of what we talked about today regarding cannabis revenue sharing.
Great, thank you very much. Any discussion on the motion on the table? Seeing none, I'll call it to a vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. 9.2, proposal to join National Police Federation call to action. So there was an email from the National Police Federation, and so they are a lobby group, is that correct?
Your worship, that's the union for the RCMP.
Oh, this is the union for the RCMP. Ah. Okay. Did we have anyone on a discussion on this letter? Counselor Phillips?
So I know, I mean, this is a hot topic, the province looking to implement a provincial police force. I know, I mean, municipalities are not really on board with the province going down this route, and I get that. I'm not sure if I'm in favor of supporting a union type request for this. You know, if it was AAPG or something like that, that would be a different story, but I'm just not sure if I'm comfortable supporting a union request on behalf of the RCMP. But I do question the amount of money we're spending looking into the possibility of putting in a provincial police force. There's a lot of expenditures that are coming out that would be very high expenditures. So it's definitely a valid question, but I'm just not sure if this is the right venue.
Counselor Ald?
I'm not comfortable with putting our support behind any union, whether it's RCMP union or not. And I don't know enough exactly about what's coming down the pipe as far as costing and what it's going to be downloaded to the municipality. So I'm not in favor on changing anything either, but I'm not in favor of throwing our support behind a union request.
Thank you very much. And then I'll go to Counselor Boniface.
I would like to see us not support this at all. I do not agree that we support a union, but I definitely would support any other group that wanted to lobby the government about removing the RCMP, but not their union.
Okay. So, sorry, Counselor Hutchinson?
I agree. I do agree with pretty much everything that they say in their proposed letter, but I don't feel supporting a union is the right direction to go.
Counselor Fraser?
I know Alberta Municipalities has been doing some work on this front. I wonder if administration could get in touch with them and see whether they have a campaign or they have a point of view that we could possibly put our voices towards, and that would be, I think, a more appropriate venue for us through our organization versus the RCMP union. I agree with everything in the letter, but I think that we should do it with other municipalities with the view that we are concerned about the cost to municipalities.
Counselor Phillips?
So the Alberta municipalities did do a presentation on the PricewaterhouseCoopers report that was put out regarding transition to a provincial police force. So yeah, I agree. That's the way we should be going. I don't think supporting a union's drive for their own membership, I don't think that's the venue we should be going, but I definitely think Alberta municipalities for sure is a venue we should be looking at and supporting.
So I agree. I'm not 100% sure that they've worked out their details effectively. And I like the idea behind it. I really would like Alberta to be less dependent on Ottawa for things, but I don't agree that we should. Yes, so could we just have a motion for information then to accept the letter for information and then move forward in the agenda? Would someone like to, Councillor Ald?
I'll make the motion that we accept 9.2 for information.
Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. So 9.3, county weed inspectors.
Yes,
Mr.
thank you,
Kraus.
Worship. So under the Weeds Controlled Act, each municipality must appoint a weed inspector for their municipality. Historically, we've always teamed up with Clearwater County and used their weed inspectors. They have several of them that do it through the agricultural areas through their community. And they just reciprocate if we have a concern that their weed inspectors will come in. There is no cost to the municipality by doing this. It's a kind of a swap of services we have with Clearwater County.
Sounds fantastic. So we just need to make a motion that council appoints Clearwater County Agriculture and Community Services to staff the weed inspector, or do we can we just?
Your worship, they do have a recommendation on the second page, and we actually have to list the personnel.
Okay. Councillor Phillips, did you have a question?
No, I did not.
Sorry, Councillor Hutchinson.
I was just going to make the motion.
Okay, perfect.
That council appoints the following Clearwater County Agriculture and Community Services staff as weed inspectors under the Alberta Weed Control Act for the town of Rocky Mountain House for 2022 for field and administrative duties for the duration of their employment as directed by Clearwater County's Agricultural Service Board. I need to name them.
Yep.
Bailey Eklund, Lakin Kinch, Kira Medell, Jordan Sands, Rylan Lacey, and Leah Sulik.
Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. Moving on to 9.4, Rocky Organization for Animal Rescue, ROAR, has got a small grant request. And so, Mr. Kraus, did you have comment on that?
No, so your worship, just to remind council, so we have the granting policy. So there's a large grant where we take intakes twice a year, which is up to $5,000. Part of the policy is we have a small grant application for maximum of $500, and those are just taken in as they come in throughout the year. So this is just a request for $500 towards their charity barbecue for the Roar Society. And it meets the requirements of the policy, which is for council.
Excellent. Councillor Fraser.
I'm in support of the grant. I think ROAR does a lot for our community where there are partners for animal control. And I know that they are always fundraising because there could always be more money that can go towards the animals. So I'm in support of providing them with the grant for their charity barbecue.
Councillor Phillips.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly why we have the small grant program in place. I think this is a great use of that money, and Aurora is a good community member, and they do a lot of great things for our town, and I definitely support this.
Excellent. Councillor Fraser, did you want to make the motion?
I can absolutely do that. I will move that we approve ROAR's small grant request.
All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. 9.5 Bowden Days Parade, July 16th, 2022 invitation. So they sent us a letter saying that they're having their parade and they're inviting the town of Rocky Mountain House to participate. It's the year of the garden. And I will be away that day. So did we want to discuss that?
If I would be happy to attend on on behalf of the town to this parade, if everyone's okay with that. It's nice to have the town of Rocky Mountain House in various communities, especially with our vehicle. It's a good showcase of our town going through other communities and supporting their their parades and their events as well.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Counselor Hutchinson?
I'd go too. Sure. Anybody else wants to come too? I know it's a long ways away. But somebody will
All right, so
represent.
do we need to make a resolution that is a does someone want to make? Counselor Phillips? Counselor,
Sorry. I move that somebody from Rocky Mountain House represents the town at the Bowden Days Parade, July 16th, 2022.
fair enough. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So now we go to 9.6 Alberta Culture Letter to Rocky Mountain House and District Minor Football Association with the CFEP grant. So they sent a letter saying that we've been granted the funding for the football lights. Counselor Phillips, or sorry, Counselor Ald. You kept waving at me. I was distracted. I saw his light too.
I just want to confirm with administration that, so we're putting a matching grant in with the county on top of that 112,000.
That's correct. Yeah,
Or is it
I
60?
believe it's $65,000 a piece, county and town, towards this project.
Do we,
Thank you.
do we have a diagram or any kind of a costing on what their project actually is? I was trying to find it and I couldn't.
Yeah, just to speak to that, I guess the first grant application was submitted in 2018 was in the first time they submitted, and working with a local contractor had put together a costing estimate of the lights. And that's continued. I don't have an actual diagram of where the lights, I believe there's 6 light standards that are going in and around that. I do have a meeting at the request of the minor football organization with the school division coming up here on April 14th to discuss the project, because it's on school property, and you know what needs to happen to take that further, and you know what, if anything, the town's involvement with that, because I think initially the project involved tying into power in and around the spray park, but then we have to work out the details of the construction part, working with the school division, the costs and ongoing maintenance and those types of things.
So after that meeting, would you be able to bring back a little more information as to the details on that?
Yeah, I should be able to do that.
Thanks, Wes.
Thank you. And I have a question actually while you're still there, because I can't recall, but that was part of our budget, right? We had that set aside because we've been just waiting and waiting for this letter. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's correct, Your Worship. So council did contribute 62,500 towards this project. I mean, what's unclear with this project right now is
The scope.
who owns it at the end of the day,
Ah.
who maintains it at the end of the day, who pays the power, because it's not an initiative of the town, it's an initiative of the football association, and it's also on school property, so it's not on our property.
Yep. Perfect. So Councillor Phillips, did you have a comment?
No, I know there's a few more details that need to be worked out on it, but it's nice to see that the CFEP grant finally got approved. I know this has been approved in budgets for the last few years.
Yeah.
All contingent on CFEP grants. So it's nice to see that it's finally approved, and hopefully we can get this project going sooner than later.
Exactly. So we'll just make a motion to accept for information, the letter, to move forward. Is that?
Your worship, if council all can make a resolution that we bring back a report or updated information for it, then it goes on the action list and
Perfect. Counselor Ald,
I'd like to make a resolution that administration works with the football society and brings back a report with more information regarding the lighting to the football field.
do you want the school in there too? Doesn't matter. It's all, okay. All in favor? And that's carried. Sorry, Counselor Ald?
Before.
Oh, you need your-
For a 10-minute recess.
Yes. Yep, we can have a 10-minute recess. That's perfect. back into the meeting. Thank you very much. So moving forward, correspondence for information. Does anybody have any questions or want to bring anything to our attention? Their correspondence for information? Counselor Ald,
I'll just make a motion to accept 10.1 to 10.8 for information.
thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. Moving on to 11, Mayor's Report, April 5th, 2022. Is there any questions or comments about my report? Seeing none. We'll move. Thank you. Councilor Fraser.
I will move that we accept Mayor Baches' report for April 5th as information.
Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. Moving on to 11.2. Counselor Ald. Do you have any questions for Counselor Ald, Counselor Boniface, Counselor Caprero, Counselor Fraser, Counselor Hutchinson, Counselor Phillips?
I just had one thing on my report. This is from the Alberta Municipalities Leadership Caucus. The discussion of the LGFF funding or the new LGFF funding came up. It's replacing MSI in 2024. And the initial funding of the LGFF is starting at 37% less than MSI funding is now. So it's $755 million in total. So that is something that in 2024 is going to become a reality. If it changes between now and then, that's great. But as of right now, it's a 37% less funding model. And they were looking at a better formula of the allocation of these funds and how they be distributed out to communities. And some of the criteria they were going to base it on or try to, because they still have to talk with Alberta municipalities and with Minister MacGyver on the funding model, was more of population, kilometer of roads, a set base amount for the smaller communities, tangible capital assets, and own source revenue. So those are kind of the 5 ones that Alberta municipalities wants to base the funding model on, which is fair. There was so many different type of criteria before that some of them weren't really fair, and this just makes it more equitable. But it's something that is going to make an impact in 2024 for sure.
So this was also something that Minister MacGyver was this one of the things he was looking for more input on? Are you wanting to?
Yeah, he suggested that he didn't want to make the funding model himself. He wanted that funding model to be brought back to them from municipalities. So Alberta municipalities took it upon themselves to come up with an initial funding model. And then, of course, it has to be discussed with RMA to make sure that that funding model is acceptable to both parties. And then from there, it could probably go to the minister for discussion.
Okay. Thank you very much for that extra information. Is there any other questions or comments based on all the reports? I'm very busy the last month or so. Okay, so we'll need a Councillor Capero.
I'll make a motion to accept 11.2 councillor reports dated April 5th, 2022 as information.
Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. So action list moving forward, 12.1. Is there anything we need to discuss? Sorry, Councillor Fraser.
I was just going to say, if there aren't any questions on the action list, I will make a motion to accept the action list as presented.
Perfect. Seeing no further discussion on that, I'll call that to vote. All in favor? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Did we have any administrative inquiries to set forth? Councillor Boniface and then Councillor Fraser next.
Just a couple of inquiries, and I know Councillor Phillips brought this forward a a while back here, but just a few citizens phoning me with concerns about the showers in the swimming pool being ice cold and no hot water, and wondering how that is coming along.
Yeah, it's an ongoing issue. We've replaced the mixing valve, which didn't seem to solve the problem. We're currently working with plumbers to investigate why we're getting hot water in one shower and cold water in another. And we're at a bit of a loss. So we're working with local plumbers to resolve the situation.
Thank you. I will pass that on. Thank you.
Counselor Fraser.
I had a question about the electric highway, and I know that that had kind of stagnated. I know we'd been waiting on a grant, but then there have also been whispers online of the Tesla supercharger network, and I was curious if that might be a better option since the other one seems to have stalled out.
Actually, can I ask Mr. Schwader to come? Okay, yeah.
Your worship, to Councillor Fraser, if you give us a month, we might have good news for you.
Oh, okay.
In that we're in discussions that we can't.
Of course. I had somebody who's purchasing a Tesla who wanted to know if he could plug it in, so.
So for those questions, there are a number of slower charge, like Rainbow Ford has one, and GM has one currently in Rocky Mountain House. Because I've had, my sister wanted to come for a visit and she asked, if there's anything, so they could charge while they came for a visit. Yes, we had a meeting with something the other day, so. Okay. Was there any other inquiries? Okay. So do we have any notices of motion? Seeing none, moving forward, we need to move, or I'd like to move into closed session to discuss a number of items. All in favor? Yeah, and that's carried.